The number one question on the minds of all leaders this fall will be how do we re-engage students and families after the COVID crisis? In the report, Education in a Post-COVID World, 9 Ideas for Public Action by UNESCO, there is a call to action for leaders to re-engage their communities. A strengthened commitment to education as a common good means an awareness that we are educating not just children and young people, but that we are educating publics. In addition, community engaged and community led learning is a key component of education and must be central to any strategy that addresses present and future challenges. Page 10. Fullen, Quinn, Drummy, and Gardner, 2020, have reimagined that schools can be transformed in 3 phases. Currently, we are in phase 2, transition. This phase examines how schools and leaders plan and respond to reopening with the volatility of the pandemic still looming. In the report, Education Reimagined: The Future of Learning by Fullen et al., 2020, the following priorities have been identified for schools reopening: health and safety, well-being, quality learning, equity, technology, and capacity. As leaders, we must acknowledge that this has been a tremendous period of loss, change, isolation, and trauma for our communities. Fullen states there is no blueprint for reopening schools during an unpredictable pandemic. Whether in schools, districts, or at a policy level, you will be adapting constantly to respond to 3 interconnected issues: well-being, quality learning, and safety in operations. Page 10. Fullen believes that leaders must consider that many students, staff, and families have endured tremendous change, isolation, loss, and trauma. We must understand that the experience has affected us all in different ways. We must show empathy and grace. We must ask people what they need, and that we are not out of the woods yet, and more change may be on the horizon. As schools, it is imperative that we use this time to reflect on what we have learned from staff, students, and families during this time of remote learning. Fullen, page 11, figure 5, provides us with a tool that we can use to engage staff, students, and parents in this reflective process in order to set direction to move forward. The second priority identified by Fullen is quality learning. He asks us to consider Maslow before Bloom. How will schools ensure connection and collaboration, identify learning gaps, encourage autonomy, and deal with the inconsistencies in student attendance? It is crucial for schools to recreate the sense of community within classrooms and schools, build relationships, review and return to expectations and routines, and give students voice. School teams must identify learning gaps and gather data to determine the strengths that have emerged, areas for growth, and strategies and next steps to support all learners. Safety and operations will be driven by the context and mandates of countries, states, cities, and school boards. The what and how will be dictated, and individual schools will have little autonomy. The key will be in the identification of the operational considerations for leaders. Fullen provides in Appendix 1 of Education Reimagined a tool for school leaders to use for this purpose. School leaders would be wise to engage parents in this process as well. A key in reducing parent anxieties and worries will be in clear communication and the application of universal safety protocols. In our discussion time together, we will continue to examine strategies, tools, and best practices that support the engagement of the community in determining the next steps for well-being, quality learning, safety, and operations as we all return to the new normal of our school communities this fall. In our discussion together, we will examine 5 high-yield strategies for engaging parents in the dialogue about returning to school. 1. Community partnerships. 2. Frameworks. 3. Social media. 4. Surveys. And 5. Virtual home visits. It is these methods that will support us in our engagement of the community as we return to school. The SharePoint link below contains strategies and references for leaders to use in dialoguing with their community about the return to school post-COVID.